Actually, I'm going to do a quick story about teaching high school in Japan. And the girls' school that I taught at, like any high school, there are cliques, there are groups. The groups in Japan seem to compile around more social groups than, I guess, cliques in high school. For instance, you would have girls whose parents were factory workers at the Mazda plant. They would eat together, and management at the Mazda plant, they would eat together, and police officers' kids, they would eat together. And of course, you would have groups of like the mayor of the city, the daughter of the mayor of Hiroshima, the mayor of the Japanese, or the daughter of the Japanese Defense Forces major in the area, things like that. Interesting enough, one of my favorite students in class ate with no one. She ate by herself. She spoke wonderful English. I later met her mother and realized that her mother was American. I think she was Japanese American, to be fair. Like, I believe that her mother herself was Japanese born in the United States. She might have even been half Japanese, half European of some sort, because she had very curly black hair. It was kind of wavy more than curly, but it was not Japanese specific hair. So I think there was something in there, but that's not the point. Although that could certainly lead to some people snubbing you in Japanese culture. Society, not culture. But she ate alone. She spoke wonderful English, had great manners, was a very good piano player, which is what she went on to do in university, actually. So, as time went on, I thought to myself, this is legitimately the kind of girl who should be very popular in Japanese high school. So why is she eating alone? I ate with her a lot, actually. So when time rolls around for parent-teacher night, effectively, in Japan, it's not called that, it's called something else. But the night where your parents come to meet your teachers. I was kind of given a choice of where I would go, and I said, oh no, I'm going to the private, private one. So a few things should be noted about this girl right away as well. First was that she had money. She didn't flaunt it, but all of her, clothing and peripherals were very expensive. Her phone, very expensive. She did not take mass transit to work. She was in fact dropped off by a car each day. Not her mother, a driver, in a little chauffeur outfit. Sometimes her grandmother would be with her. The woman I assume is her grandmother. I'm fairly positive of it, actually. But so they had a chauffeur. She had expensive peripherals. She was very polite about it. She did not flaunt it. She was an altogether pleasant individual. So I go there on parent-teacher night, and I'm meeting students, doing quite well, hobbing knobs and whatnot, so her parents get there. Now, all the other parents are parking in the parking lot and walking to the front entrance of the school. There's clearly a sign up front that says you should do that. Her parents do not. Her parents pull up in a very large sedan. Her father gets out. He, interestingly enough, opens the door for her mother, who he helps out, very gentlemanly-like, something that is not necessarily considered good or bad manners in Japan. And then while they're standing there, two assistants get out. I just did air quotations. These assistants were maybe close to 6 feet tall, had the standard Japanese Bon Jovi haircut, and were in white suits. Her parents were Her father, who was a short, balding man in glasses, looked rather like your average Japanese businessman. Her mother was a cute, short little thing, curly hairs, eyeglasses, looked rather like a librarian. Their assistants were not assistants. I could have pegged these people in the streets of Hiroshima any days for what they were. Any day for what they were, not days. So I meet him, I shake his hand. He says, oh, my sister has enjoyed, having you as a teacher. We had a discussion. He actually alluded to the fact that she doesn't have a lot of friends here, and that he had appreciated me eating lunch with her. And so he gives me a business card, and the business card has his name, his address, all that on it, and it says, Waste Management and Construction. The moral to the story, ladies and gentlemen, is that the mob is the mob no matter where you go. That is the explanation for why she didn't sit with anybody. Her father was higher up in the Yakuza in Hiroshima. And no one wanted to sit with her because they might accidentally anger her. Which, if she was a terrible person, could be very dangerous. The second story dealing with this is that I was sitting with her. Well, let me back up here. I mentioned that my friend Edward had a problem with one of the schools, the delinquent school. He consistently complained about two individuals in one of his classes who were, for more or less, the kids of Yakuza members in the place that we lived. And they were punks, and that's all there is to it. It's pretty common for Yakuza members' kids to have an attitude. It's usually not a big deal. The point was, though, is they were very disruptive. They talked during class. They basically paid him no mind. So he complained about them a lot. He was like, oh, they're not bad. They're not threatening me. But, they're just disruptive. I'm sitting having lunch one day. The young lady in question comes over and sits down, who, I'm not going to give her name, but if you speak any Japanese, you'll know it here in a second. We actually met because I knew the name of the flower. She's named after a flower. And I knew the name of the flower in English. She was very impressed with that. And she asked me how I'm doing, and I was like, oh, I'm doing great. And she's like, how are your other schools? Oh, they're fine. Anyone giving you any problem? That sounds like a loaded question. It really does. I'm not sure how I should answer it. And I go, no. I have no problem. There's nothing wrong. I love all my, students and my teachers and all that. And then I go, but one of my coworkers has a problem at Tokaiichi. And she said, really? What class is he in? So I tell her. So a few weeks later, Ed comes up to me and he goes, what did you do? These two kids just come up to me and they start, apologizing profusely. And they were like, oh, we're so sorry that we were rude to you, Edward Sensei. Please accept our apologies. I don't know how that phone call worked, because my understanding is that she actually called the two young boys and fixed the problem herself. I don't know how that phone call went. I suspect she called and she politely asked them to cut it out. But in the back of my mind, I also picture that she just called them and threatened them. I don't think that's the case. I think it's very much she called them, asked them to cut it out, and they did because her dad is higher up in the hierarchy than their dads. Who knows, though? It was just an interesting set of, stories. That's not particularly atypical. I think I had one other teacher that worked with us who had any involvement with anything like that. And when you do run into that, Of course, be careful. For the most part, Yakuza members are not going to be interested in gaijin. They bring too much attention. You know, certainly if somebody you think may be a Yakuza member asks you, oh, hey, you want to go out and get some drinks, use your discretion. If, you know, it's a bar right there and they're asking you on the spot, I would suggest you do it. It'd be rude not to. They're probably just going to have a drink or two with you, ask some questions, go about their way. If they ask you to go out somewhere by yourself planned, I'd probably come up with an excuse not to. They're not going to call you on it, and it may not be worth chancing it. Yeah, you will run into just weird, funny stories like that teaching English. Or not. I've met people, I had our Jamaican teacher there, hadn't had anything interesting happen to her the whole time she'd been there 7 years. 2 or 3 of the people who had been there less than a year had weird things happen to them. I think it depends a lot on how you're going about it. Not to say that I was going about it wrong, or our Jamaican teacher was going about it right or wrong, but yeah, probably a personality trait thing. Thanks for listening.